Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Perform Happy podcast. Today, I am so excited to have Aagje Vanwalleghem, who played a critical role in putting Belgian gymnastics on the map. She has won multiple World Cup medals. She has medaled at European Championships. She was a finalist at the Olympics in Athens in 2004. And now she's an author and a resilience coach. And she, like me, is on a mission to change the sport of gymnastics and protect little kids who want to love their sport and be safe doing it. Aagje, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be in the show. I really love your show, so thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. So your book is called Resilience, and resilience often comes from bouncing back from tough things. So can you give us a little bit of context for kind of what you had to bounce back from as a young gymnast? And what were some of the tricky things, the early experiences in gymnastics that you had to kind of come back from?
Yeah. So first of all, I wrote a book, Resilience. It's a biography with tips that gives youngsters the strength and flexibility to become the best version of themselves. Because as a former Olympian and the first European medalist in Belgian gymnastics history, I'm really happy to share my experiences with young athletes because I really know they need these tips and tricks, and so that's really my mission, why I was writing the book. And of course I have had a lot of setbacks, so I don't know where to start.
So we'll start at the beginning. So first of all, you were adopted at a very
Yeah.
young age. So you're born in Brazil, and then you were adopted
Mhm.
in. So tell us a little bit about how you got into gymnastics, and then some of the rocky parts of it.
Yeah, so I've been adopted when I was 4 months old. I come from Brazil. I have the nationality Belgian and Brazilian. So when I was 4 months old, I landed here in Europe. And at the age of 4, I started doing gymnastics in my hometown club, as I was a very active child. So just as a lot of other kids, they start doing gymnastics and then they roll into it. So the coach see they have some talent, and it was like before I knew it, I was an elite gymnast, and so it really went very fast. So the first years of my gymnastics career were like not so hard. It was really fun, as it should be. And then at the age of 11, I started doing elite gymnastics, and as there was no gymnastics hall in Belgium where I lived, I had to go abroad. I went to the Netherlands, and there my elite career started at the age of 11.
Wow. Okay. And was this gym that you went to train at a positive environment? Was it what was elite training like in those years in the Netherlands?
Well, for me, I was there for 1 year. So for me, it was a real eye opener. There were gymnasts who were senior, who were training for the World Championships in 2001. It was in Ghent. So for me, it was like, wow, I want to be a gymnast like them. But it was a really hard training facility. The coach was later on, one of the abusers of gymnastics. It was fun, but it was very hard. But at that time, I really was thinking, that's the way how it is. But yeah, my eyes opened some years later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're living this dream, you're training hard, you're inspired by these Olympians and these seniors who you're training with, and then you're off on your Olympic journey. What were some of the setbacks that you faced on your path to the Olympics?
Well, in 1996, I was looking at the Olympics in Atlanta, and that was the first time for me where I was thinking, wow, when I am old enough, I really want to go to the Olympics. And the first time I could be there because of my age, it would be Athens 2004. So I was thinking, okay, I have 8 years from now, so I will do everything that's in my power to be there at the Olympics 2004. So for me, it all started when I was 11 years old. And so the road towards 2004, it was, yeah, if I have to say it now, it was kind of a lonely road with a lot of stress, with a lot of pressure. And of course, yeah, when I had a good training, a good competition, it was, of course, a big relief and happiness. But if I have to talk about it now, I feel really that I had a lot of pressure. Yeah. Which is kind of sad because it's such a honor to be able to train for the Olympics.
Okay, where was the pressure coming from?
Well, at that time, the pressure was coming from my coach. Yeah, he was. Yeah, his example was the Russian and the Russian way. Which I'm not saying that's a bad way, but you cannot compare it as the way people are treated in Europe, in the Western of Europe. So for me, it was a lot of crying, a lot of uh, yeah, I had lot of stress. I was scared. So yeah, I don't know, not that good. Yeah.
Yeah, which is, it's sort of that was the zeitgeist of the time, those 90s, early 2000s. In the US, there were a lot of
Yes.
tears. In Russia, there were a lot of
Yeah.
tears. In China, there were a
I
lot of
know.
tears. I imagine it
I
was not
know.
a
Yeah.
feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really know that it doesn't need to be a walk in the park, and it really doesn't need to be easy, because when you are an elite gymnast, it's like an honor, and you really need to represent the athlete that you are. And the fact that it's not easy, it's kind of an honor. But of course, I have difficult. And for me, it was like I couldn't be the child that I needed to be at that age.
Okay, so I'm curious. I think you and I have kids around the same age. My kids are about 6 and 9. And, if you were the mom watching one of your kids in that training environment today, what would you do?
Yeah, definitely take my kids out of there. Definitely talk to persons who have the power to change things. But I don't blame my mom, because she didn't know better. It was how it was, and the gymnasts there at the gym, it was the same for them. So if you wanted to become a good gymnast, it was that way or the highway. So yeah.
And now knowing what you know, and also having experience as a coach, is it possible to have that high level with that honor, with that hard work, without the abuse?
No, I think that the times now are ready, and the coaches and the gymnasts and the parents and everyone who is involved in a good environment now are ready to do the thing they need to do. Because you cannot just do anything you want anymore, because you have social media, you have the eyes of everyone watching you. So I think really that's a good thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something I think that's interesting to note, is that in 1996, nobody was being videoed. Nobody was being called out on social media. And parents didn't know. There were no reresources to know that this is actually not okay. I didn't know until I had already stopped coaching that it's not okay to push kids down in their splits. I mean, there's just things that that's the way it was done. So that's what you do. And if they're crying, that's okay. Toughen up, kid. And it's like, it breaks my heart now to just go, oh my gosh, I coached the way I was coached. And I did some things that were questionable as a result. And so now my eyes have been opened. What was it that opened your eyes to know that that was not how it should have been?
Well, it was kind of clear for me. So I became an Olympian. I qualified for the Olympics in 2004. I even did my finals, the all-round final at the Olympics 2004. But after that, my body was starting to change. So I became a woman because now when I'm looking at gymnastics, I see women doing gymnastics. And for me, that's so great to see because at my time, it were like kids who are doing gymnastics. And so after 2004, my body started to change, and my coach didn't like that so well. So yeah, he sent me to Texas. And that's a nice story because I was training for 6 weeks in Woga, and I trained there with it was a club of Carly Patterson, who just became Olympic champion. So it was like Hollywood for me. It was like, oh my God, I'm training here in Woga. And it also was a club of Nastya Lyokin. So for me, it was like, oh my God, you can be trained in a different way. And I trained I trained 5.5 hours in Belgium, but I trained 7 hours in Woga. And for me, it wasn't that much harder because they trained on a totally different way. So it was like another world. And it was like Evgeny, I think Evgeny Marchenko, I don't know the coach names. It was a coach of Carly Pedersen who was coaching me. And it was like the really yeah, American way. Yeah, good girl, you're doing great. Yeah, good girl. And I was, what? I am really in the United States of America where they say, oh, good girl. Yeah. So for me, it was like 6 weeks of heaven. And there I realized, yeah, you can be trained in a different way. When I came back to Belgium, I had the same coach, but that coach didn't want to train me anymore because I changed. I also was more assertive, and I had a voice, and I spoke up, and he didn't like that so much. So I started to train with another coach there who wasn't that good physically, but he was mentally really, really good. And that really was what I needed that time when my body was changing. I really needed a mental coach, not a physical coach. So I started to train because that became a problem, just to train, just to do the hours. And after a bit less than a year, I became a European medalist, and that was the first time in Belgian history. So for me, that was the eye-opener that not only physical coaches are so important, but it really need to be holistic, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, everything needs to come together. And then you can start working.
And what did that coach that you say is more mental, what did he do? What were some of the things that really worked well for you that he would do, his approach?
His approach, it was like, okay, how do you feel today? So for me, that was already a new thing. How do you feel today? Well, I don't feel too good at school. My test wasn't going well. I am irritated. Okay, so let's try today this and this and this. Do you think that's possible? Yeah. So he gave me ownership. And for me, that was so important. So I really started to feel like I was a gymnast because I wanted to be a gymnast myself, and not I really felt too much years that I was a puppet on a string. So for me it was like, okay, now I'm a gymnast, I have ownership, I can speak up, and that worked for me. Yeah.
Oh, that makes me so happy for the teenager who gets to have a woman's body and gets to have a voice. And for that to be like, oh my goodness, this is possible. I just, it's so sad for the little girl who doesn't know that it's okay to have a
Yeah,
woman's
yeah,
body and to have a voice.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you
that's
got to
true.
that place. And so what led you to end your gymnastics career?
So then after 2005, that was a highlight. Then I really started to have a lot of injuries. So like I was one of the pioneers in Belgian gymnastics, there was not an interdisciplinary team around me. So when I was injured, yeah, everyone needed to search what to do. So I lost a lot of time. I think I did rehabilitation more than 3-4 years of my entire career. So it's a lot of time I lost. Um, so the injuries were starting and the rehabilitations were starting, and I did all of that. And I was really motivated, and I really had a burning desire to become better even after the injury. But for me, when there was a turning point, it was when I became scared to be injured again. And yeah, I don't need to tell you, doing gymnastics when you are scared, that's not the best the best thing to do. So for me, that was the beginning of the end, being scared to become more injured. Yeah.
Mm. And it's interesting that you mentioned that in Belgium, there weren't all the resources because I think of athletes I work with today. They have a nutritionist, they have a physical therapist, they have, consultant, they have a whole team. I work with a gym that's got a whole wellness program where there's a chiropractor and there's a nutritionist, and it just is sort of part of it, which makes so much sense because, I mean, all of these things go into making a gymnast able to go the long haul in the sport, to that
Yeah.
holistic care of the gymnast. Whereas in the
Mm-hmm.
early 2000s, they're just burning kids out young and then throwing them to the curb and then doing the next
Mm-hmm.
generation. Whereas today you see women 28 years old going for their first Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool. That would have been completely unheard of. And then women are going for their fourth Olympics or their eighth,
Yeah, that's
it's
oh, when I see that gymnasts doing 3-4 Olympics, it's like, oh my God, I'm born too soon. I really wanted to do more because yeah, but you see, it took us so much energy to stay alive as a gymnast at that time, and to cope with all the things. And I'm not saying today being a gymnast at high level is it's easy, not at all. I have so much respect, but yeah, you have just more possibilities to become the best version of yourself, so you only need to use them. All the entourage around you, you have them, you really need to use them, and that's a really good thing.
Yes. And I hear so many athletes who they think about being mentally tough as being training injured or not telling someone you're scared. And I disagree that I think part of being mentally tough and taking care of yourself is knowing when to seek help and when to ask, when to say,
Yeah,
I'm
true.
scared, or, to not
Mm-hmm.
just pound, pound, pound on injuries and then you're done. And then you
Mm-hmm.
fear ever coming back.
True. Yes,
Uh,
totally.
So if you could go back to, you in 2005, if you could be that age right now in your Olympic career, what would you do differently?
Oh, what would I do differently? Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe more speaking up, but I did that. That's why I had such or so much problems sometimes because I was speaking up. Um, but maybe relative weights. Yeah, I don't know if I could do more at that time. Maybe more enjoy my talents. I don't know. Really, Rebecca, if I look now, if I'm thinking now as a mother, because I have a 10-year-old who is doing gymnastics at a good level also. And if I look at her, that was 1 year before I started doing elite gymnastics. And I was like, oh my God, I would not want to see my daughter doing the things that I did at that age. So when I look back now, I think I can be really proud of myself. So would I do something else, something different? I don't think so because I didn't have the means to do different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you might find a little more joy and a little more
Yes,
awe.
now I really find joy because I really see gymnastics has changed. And I see, for example, my daughter, but also other kids in the gym having yeah, having that joy in their eyes doing gymnastics. And of course, I follow yeah, I'm Brazilian as well, and I follow the Brazilian gymnasts, Rebecca Andrade and Flavia, and I see joy, and it's like, oh, gymnastics is so beautiful. And yes,
Mm,
it's hard, but also that is beautiful. So I
mm,
really love gymnastics. Yeah, I will never
mhm.
change that. No.
Yeah. And, you know, and just talking with you, it's so cool to see how far the sport has come. You know, because I think it's
Mm-hmm.
still easy to point the finger at, you know, the
Mm.
coaches who are ignorant or haven't educated themselves yet, or the parents who just don't know what
Mm-hmm.
how to advocate or what they can even do. So just talking to you and noticing, oh my gosh, there has been such an evolution over the last 20 years that it
Yes.
really feels hopeful. Where I have had
Mm.
moments where it just feels totally hopeless. I talk to these kids who
Mm.
are they're
Yeah.
afraid of getting injured or being re-injured, but they don't feel like they can talk to their coach. And so their brain is putting on the brakes, but they just feel so stuck. So it
Mm-hmm.
feels like we're still kind of stuck in that, you
Yeah.
know, back in the dark ages. But
Yeah.
the answer to it is having a voice. That's what I mean. And if your coach doesn't
Yeah.
listen to you, then you go somewhere where you'll be listened to.
Yes. I think
Mm,
that's the answer because yeah, parents can yeah can read, can watch, can listen to your podcast. They can gather information how to be a good sport parent. Gymnasts, they can talk with other gymnasts. They can watch everything online. So they have the means to learn. And of course coaches as well. And if you don't feel heard or you don't feel understood, yeah, you really need to talk. You need to talk in
mhm,
a kind way, in a yeah simple way. Yeah, you need to
mhm.
talk,
Yeah.
communicate. I think that's really important.
And even as
Yeah.
simple as how are you feeling today? From a coach to an
Yeah.
athlete. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing how powerful that simple check-in can be
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
then you can guide your
Check-ins.
workout
Yeah.
accordingly and set people up for success.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so back to
Totally.
resilience. And I know you're a resilience coach.
Mm-hmm.
For any
Mm-hmm.
athletes out there who just feel like, it's so hard, or they're in a hard moment, or maybe they're injured or they had a setback, what are some suggestions or tips that you can give the athlete who feels like they're falling behind, or, you know, life
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel fair? How can you help them to bounce back, you know, better than they were
Mm-hmm.
before?
Yeah, first of all, feeling sad is kind of the process. It's not a shame if you feel bad or you feel sad. What I have seen and what I see in my resilience coaching is that children or youngsters, they can do more than they think they can. Um, they always have some reserve, or I don't know how to say it, some tools behind, even if they think it's over, their chances are over. So they have more in them than they think. So if they know that already, that's kind of help them to be more confident about themselves. Other things, surrounding yourself with good people. Your entourage is so important, and trusting them. It can be your parent, but it's also can be your brother or your professor, or of course your coach. So trusting the people around you that can help, and being open for feedback. It's not possible that you know everything yourself, and if you know that, and if you know that you can make mistakes, everyone makes mistakes, you will feel less stressed about it. So I can
Mhm.
give a lot of tips, but I think these
Yeah.
are some important ones.
I think there's a
Yeah.
misconception around asking for help being a sign of
Mm-hmm.
weakness. But
Yes.
as a mom, I am constantly, you know, trying to say, hey, good job asking for help. I always am encouraging, ask for help,
Yeah.
ask for help. Do you need help? What do you need? Because it's not that I'm trying to do everything for them. I'm trying to build that muscle of, do you need help? Ask for it. It's the most efficient way to get through a tough
Yeah.
spot. Instead of
Yes.
going, I'm going to figure out this fear, walk over to your coach and
Mm-hmm.
say, Coach, I'm afraid. What do you think? What should I do?
Yeah.
Then you've
Yeah.
got two minds on the problem. or 3
Mm-hmm.
or 4, and then creative solutions start to come up because you've involved other people and you've actually given the gift of inviting people into your struggle, which I think most
Yeah.
people feel, grateful for that opportunity to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of the learning pits. That's if you fall in the pits, if you have like a problem, a setback, just stay there for a while and start thinking, okay, how can I resolve that or that problem? Because if anyone else will help you directly, you never will learn how to be resilient. So
Yeah.
it's okay to be there in the pit and then look up and then think, okay, what can I do? Can I ask for help? Can I do it myself? And then
Mhm.
yeah, so you become more resilient. Yeah.
Yes. That's my favorite question is what can I do? Because we get
Mm-hmm.
so stuck in the way we can't do, or I'm injured, or I can't, or my coach, and you go, okay, well, what you can control, what can you do right now that might move you a tiny bit out of that pit? Just
Mm-hmm.
one little grasp and climb, one
Yeah.
tiny win that you can get. And
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I love that you also say that kids have like this inner resource, this like
Mm-hmm.
extra. I've heard, I'm going to butcher this statistic, but I've heard that something like when you feel like you're out of gas, you still have 40% left because your brain
Mm-hmm.
slows you down way before you deplete your reserves. So if you
Mm-hmm.
consider that you're actually only at 60% when you feel like you're out of what you can
Mm-hmm.
offer, you can give it a solid another 30% without risking
Mm-hmm.
completely running out. So that's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting challenge to think, okay,
Yeah.
if you're doing a hard conditioning set and you feel like you're about to die, you go, well, I probably have 40% left. So let's just see what's
Yes,
possible.
yes. Yes, that's really true. That's really true. I had like physical coaching and I was like my heart rate was like 200. I was young, so that's normal. And I was like, "Oh no, coach, I can't anymore. I will die. I will die." And he was saying, it's okay. Just go. Just do it." And then I finished my turns and it was, "Oh, I'm still living." So it was like, okay, I didn't die. So yeah, people are used to have some reserve, some yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
I think
They can
also
do
the
then they can do
feelings.
more.
You can't die from feelings, I have found in my life. I've felt like I might die from
Yeah.
heartbreak or heartache or disappointment. But I think it's it's the same story where you're going to have
Yeah.
that sad. You're going to sit in the pit and have that sad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's good and it's okay and it's part of the process because you're not going to die from sad. So you don't have
No.
to push it away like, oh, I can't feel this way. You can just actually
Yeah.
be sad.
Yeah, and that's a problem with social media because, and that I really want to say, because everything seems perfect, and especially young people. I have this 10-year-old, and she's starting to watch social media, and everything is so perfect, and I'm really aware that I really need to see that for her, as that's not always the reality. So it's okay to watch social media, but don't believe everything. Not everything needs to be perfect. So I think as a parent, you really need to give that information to your child. Yeah.
Mhm. I have this pet peeve on social media of parents who will post highlights of their kids' meets. So they
Mm-mm.
will purposely cut out the wobble or they'll cut out the fall from the
Oh.
routine, and the only things that make it are the things that were perfect. And I can see the cut. I go, she just was about to wobble and mom cut out that section.
Oh.
And it's like, oh, that the message that gives is that those
That's
imperfect portions are not valuable. We can't
yes.
we can't
That's
showcase that.
catastrophic. Yes. That's
Yeah.
so sad. Yeah, I can't say much about that. Yeah.
So any
Yeah.
parents who you're doing that, I'm going to give you a loving slap on the hand and say, post the whole routine, mom. She did it.
Yes.
She showed up.
Yes.
That was her best today. Or don't post at
Yes.
all. Or post about
Yeah.
her character and how
Yes.
resilient she has been this season, not about the
Mm-hmm.
medals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I
Okay, so
totally agree.
you have this little gymnast in your house. What has been the hardest part of parenting a gymnast for you?
Yeah, for me, as she is only 10, for me, she can eat everything she wants. I really don't want to focus on that already because I know what can happen if you do too much and too soon. But for me, the hardest part is because I was a gymnast myself, I can see her at the gym. So yeah, I want to give her some tips and tricks. And then I am like, no, 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 you are the parent here. It's the coach who will do that tomorrow in the gym. So yeah, sometimes I text to the coach, say it to her, but I think that's a good thing because at home, I'm the parent. Um, but for me, that's my biggest challenge, not to be the coach
Just to
at
keep your
home.
mouth shut.
Yeah.
I think even non-Olympian gymnastics parents have that same struggle that they want
Okay.
to be like, yeah, I sat and watched my little one do her recreational gymnastics and I was going,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, those toes. Oh, those toes. I
Yes.
can't look.
Ah,
And I had to just
yes.
zip it and be like, great job, kiddo. Let's go home. To just,
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't have to be hyper focused on her form right now. I can just
Yes.
give her a hug and feed her.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think honestly, the parents who have experience in the sport that their kid does can have the hardest time because they actually do
Mm,
know what they're talking about. So to really just turn that over to a coach can be challenging. But
mhm.
bravo that you're doing that. I think it's so important
Yeah.
for her. So okay, so
Yeah.
now looking forward, where would you like to see gymnastics continue to evolve?
Well, I think we are on a good way. I think the abuse story of last year's was a hard, a painful, but a really necessary one. But I think everyone understands now it really needs to be different. And I am convinced that one country already more than the other is really getting attention to that ethical part. Yeah, so I think we are on a good way, but I think that gymnasts really need to be aware that they have like a support team. The parents need to be informed how to be a good sportive parent. And I think the coaches also have a lot of work, but they are doing that work. So we just need more time. And I think, yeah, if you see that the age of gymnastics, the people who are performing and competing is going higher and higher, that I see as a good thing. So I'm kind of positive with, of course, the criticism of former athletes, but I think that's a good thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely. Yeah. So you are a member of the Gymnastics Ethics Foundation Council. What is your role
Mhm.
like with that organization and what are they up to?
Yeah, I really proudly serve as a member of that GF foundation. So they are contributing to the ethical standards in gymnastics internationally. So I represent the voice of the athletes for a term of 4 years, with the possibility of extending another 4 years. For me, it was a big honor, especially because yeah, it's independent foundation, but of the FIG. So it's not nothing. And they asked me to do that. So for me, it was a big honor. So yeah, I represent the voice of the athletes. So if there are problems, big problems, yeah, the people there in the GF are quickly going to yeah, to have justice. But the athletes and the emotions are often left behind. So there I have the eyes and the ears of the athletes when we have meetings. I represent the voice of the athletes. What would they think? How would they feel if we do something like that? So yeah, that's my role, and I think I feel it really interesting, and I'm really happy to be in the GF. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, and I always love when people are taking active positions to really make change. Because it's one thing to go, we
Mm-hmm.
need change. It's another to actually say yes
Mm.
to the committee and show up to the meetings and to write the letters
Yes.
and to talk to the people and to ask the questions. So
Yeah.
for parents out there who are, wanting to be on this crusade with us, do you have suggestions for if a parent wants to improve the culture of gymnastics, some things that they can do?
If a parent wants, Well, a parents, first of all, a parent need to be there for their child, communicate with the coach, have confidence in the coach, because if you choose a gym, that's because, I hope so, you have confidence in the gym. And if you don't have confidence, yeah, maybe it's better to change. But for the parents, I think just being supportive for the child. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Great advice. Ahia, this has been so wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing, your motherhood, your experience. I mean, you've got so much wisdom, and I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing to make the sport a better place. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you to be here. It's an honor. Thank you.